20 to 4 on a Friday. That's the slot I was given. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ciko Thomas. I'm a banker. So hopefully I don't kill you with boredom this afternoon. But also, I'm Ciko Thomas. I'm from New Brighton in a place called Gqeberha. Okay? And the topic of our conversation today is about culture, ostensibly. Well, I mean, I suppose it is about culture, but it really is more than anything else about South Africa, actually, and South Africanness. And it's just a conversation point around how do we think about our brands in the context of where they come from, or where brands come from, why brands should not forget their roots. And hopefully we want to meander around together, and I give you something to think about as we reflect on that. So I'm from Gqeberha, right? But I mean, I've had the privilege of going to one or two places outside the country. So I've gone to places like Milan in Italy, fantastic city, beautiful, fashionable people. I've been to places like Paris in France. I'm going back again for the final, actually, to watch the box. So, and again, there's a certain sense of Frenchness. Every time you walk along or past a cafe in Paris, there's something uniquely Parisian about that. I've been to a place like Tokyo. I was there when we won the Springbok World Cup, the Springboks won the World Cup 4 years ago. And again, the sense of Japaneseness, if you go to a place like Tokyo, pervades, you know? So what's in common with all these places? These places are places that are fiercely protective of their identity. You never go to Paris and feel that you're anywhere else but in Paris or in France. You never go to Kyoto in Japan and not feel that you are in the heartland of everything that defines what Japaneseness is about. And you know, you feel this in a place like Lagos, actually, in Nigeria. If you are in Lagos or in Abuja or you are in Kano in Nigeria, you feel a sense of Nigerianness. If they play a high life tune and they blast Fela, you are going to feel the spirit of Nigerianness. And these are all places that have been able to do that and successfully commercialize the provenance of these places that they come from and taken great brands off the back of that to the rest of the world. So I spoke about Milan. If you think about brands like the prancing Ferrari horse or the spirit of Miuccia Prada, if you're holding a Prada fashion item, or you're sprinkling a Parmigiani over a bowl of Barilla pasta, it's unashamedly Italian. And you down it with a beautiful Chianti, and you finish it off with a beautiful gelato. You have a croissant in Paris, you feel the swag. You feel a sense of joie de vivre. A lot of my friends are in this room, and I know that they partake of Veuve Clicquot because of its Frenchness. They carry that Louis Vuitton handbag with pride because there's something in that that says, I've got a joy of life because I prance around in a Louis Vuitton bag. For those of my friends in this room who drink Japanese whiskey, I mean, these people have been able to take something that is unashamedly Scottish and been able to create a brand like Yamazaki, which is unashamedly, which is arguably the best whiskey brand in the world. How do they do that? Because they've borrowed from the discipline and their understanding and appreciation of harmony and understanding the discipline of crafting. That's what makes them uniquely and fearlessly Japanese. And you see it in a brand like Toyota, or you're watching a beautiful PlayStation and you're using that, everything, or you're eating a beautiful Wagyu steak, everything that is Japanese is fearlessly so. So all of these great brands are great because they value provenance. And what is provenance simply? It's understanding your place of and source of origin. So if I look at myself and I think of myself, I say I'm from New Brighton. And I was born in a society that values storytelling. No wonder I value storytelling. I'm from New Brighton. It's a place that has birthed some of South Africa's greatest storytellers, whether it's a John Kani, or Zim Nawana, the great jazz musician, or George Pemba, the artist, or Zolani Mahola, the musician, or Zonke, the vocalist. All of them are wonderful storytellers, and they are gifted in storytelling because they come from a place whose essence and DNA is in storytelling. So reflecting on this as South Africans, do we see our value? Are we able to knit from what we value about South Africa and weave and bake that into the brands that we manage and that we have a responsibility to commercialize? Do we understand that and do we see that? Do we take the value of the diversity that lives in South Africa as a gift, or do we see it as a challenge? You know, the late, great Bishop Desmond Tutu spoke of this notion that often gets rubbished, but actually that speaks to the magic of this place called the Rainbow Nation, which speaks to our diversity and what makes us special as South Africans. How do we deal with the hatred and the love that often we have with this idea of a Rainbow Nation? Do we embrace it or do we reject it? We're not sure at times. We're not sure whether to embrace it as a gift or a challenge. And yet the brands that have been able to do that and harness the power of borrowing unashamedly from the things that make this great country the great place that it is, have thrived. I mean, I watch a young artist like Karabo Poppy do the things that they're doing with their brand, and it's fantastic, and it's uniquely South African, and there are many other examples. Do we appreciate our natural ability as storytellers? I mean, Trevor is busy building one of the greatest entertainment brands of the last 50 years, borrowing unashamedly out of his South Africanness. I tried to get a ticket for his show in Pretoria tonight. I can't. It was sold out months ago because there's power in that brand. So if I look at myself and how I define myself as a business person, as a custodian of brands, as a custodian of brands, and just in my general lifestyle, I am someone who's completely obsessed with identifying what's going to make South Africa work. And often we get caught in the whirlwind and the noise of a building that got burnt in the city center, or corrupt politicians, or this and that, or a politician that was going to buy champagne, Avusa. Yeah? We get caught up in that, and we lose sight of what makes this great country work. And I want to implore us to continuously challenge ourselves, to continue to lift the bonnet and to look what makes this great place work. Because I firmly believe that at the intersection of what makes this country work and in the making of great brands lies the golden gate and a wonderful magic pot of opportunity for great brands to make a great name for themselves, not only in this country, but all over the world. So if I think of myself, before I became a banker, I used to sell cars. I had this stupid idea with a couple of mates of mine that we liked driving BMWs. We're starting to make a bit of money. We liked driving BMWs, and we asked ourselves, why do we buy BMWs where we buy them from? You know, because every place, and this is around 2000, everywhere where I went to buy my cars, I never saw people who looked like me. So we said we want to start a BMW, and we made that a reality. We started Joburg City Auto, which became at the time South Africa's first black-owned BMW dealership that I was at the helm of, and we called it Joburg City Auto. Why did we call it Joburg City Auto? Because we opened it in the CBD. We realized that if we are going to create a pioneering black business, we need to draw from the energy that created the economic powerhouse that is South Africa, which is the CBD of Joburg. So that's where we went. We looked at the great mining magnates that were in South Africa in the 1870s, 1890, the landlords, and they made their early fortunes in the CBD of Joburg, and we wanted to draw from that energy and draw inspiration from that. And that's why we named this dealership Joburg City Auto. And off the back of that, we opened up many more dealerships, and we spun it off and created a commercial success out of drawing from Provenance. We started a conversation that was important for black-owned business, we believed at the time, And in very many ways, it gets lost. There are businesses that understand it. I made an example of Karabo Poppy, but there's other brand owners that get this and that are doing it, and they're building fantastic brands off the storylines of their provenance. But sometimes it gets lost. Sometimes we have momentary amnesia and we forget the greatness that lies in the magic of this place that we call South Africa. So if I look at someone like Laduma, he's also from New Brighton, by the way. So he understands storytelling. He comes from that great gene pool that understands and draws from storytelling to create an exportable brand story across the world. He's someone who's tapped into the double helix structure of what makes South Africa and Africa great and is busy taking it to the world. And he's not the only one. Robbie Brozin's story started in Rosettenville. Natasha Sideris' story, and every time I walk into Tasha's in Dubai or Doha, I'm filled with pride because it's a story that has its roots here. And it's a unique service culture that borrows from here. And it's been made commercially successful all over the world. What is it take for you guys as custodians of brands to drill and extract from this magic well that can take a great African story and make it great for your brands? I spoke about Nando's. Amapiano right now are blowing up all over the world. I was in Amsterdam a couple of months ago. I walk into a club, I walk in, I speak, and someone says to me, "Hey, brother, where's that accent from?" I said, "I'm from Joburg." He said, "Thank you for Amapiano." So we're busy. There are people who are busy building global sensations because they tap into the zeitgeist. So my sense is, let us not forget as marketers the responsibility and the role that we can play to create vanguard African brands that fiercely protect the identity and our Africanness, that are able to tap into this wonderful intersection between what we are about as South Africans and this rich asset base of brands that we are custodians of, and understand the pot of gold that lies at the head of that wonderful intersection. How do we commercialize provenance? And also, how do we, as we commercialize provenance, how do we create global access for the brands that we've been charged with looking after? We as Nedbank have decided that what we want to own is financial wellness. Financial wellness that is uniquely South African. Financial wellness that is not about self-enrichment or self-empowerment. Financial wellness that is about the good of others, which is exactly the spirit of Ubuntu, which is the provenance of our African identity. And that's what we've decided to own, and that's what we want to take and export to the rest of Africa, and indeed, the rest of the world. So for us in this room, as custodians of brands, please let us not forget our roots. Please let us constantly be reminded about this wonderful intersection that I speak about, at the apex of which sits this wonderful pot of gold of opportunity around what we can do to make tons of money and create fame for the brands that we are charged with being custodians of, because they borrow from our African DNA and our African provenance. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable. Mr. Ciko Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what it is, man. There's something about the water in Gqeberha and Mthatha that breeds really talented people. I'm from Mthatha, by the way, so I don't know what it is. The other thing that New Brighton has, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Xolani, the talking goat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. What would you call it? It's an urban legend. Is it an urban legend?
It's an urban legend. It's an urban legend, but sometimes I embellish it. I always tell people that I've had a colored black label with Xolani. So you must buy me a top and I'll tell you the story.
No, Xolani would freak people out. It's like people would walk from work and then they just hear, Eta. Then they're like, there's nobody here. Eta. It's still nothing. Once you find out it's a goat because it goes, Eta, then you're like, hey! Mr. Ciko Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.